All right, everyone, what is up? And welcome to a new video. And as well, this should be hopefully the first video on our new channel, Fight Night Central. And today we'll be breaking down UFC Phoenix Fight Night 140 something.
Five, maybe?
Five.
Maybe?
UFC Arizona, the first ESPN card.
Yep, first free one on their
And
platform.
And it's a pretty good one for the first ESPN card.
Yeah, I mean, this card is better than last weekend's pay-per-view.
Yeah, agreed. And for those of you that have ESPN Plus, a fight that's definitely worth looking into is the Barao and Luke Saunders fight, mainly because that most likely will end up in one of those guys leaving the organization. Barao has fallen on hard times ever since his fall from grace against TJ Dillashaw, and Luke Saunders is 2-3 in his last few fights, and so most likely the loser will leave the UFC.
Yeah, like you said, Sanders is 2-3. I don't think any of his wins have been super impressive, and Hennon's lost 6 of his last 8, so neither one of them's looked great recently. Hennon specifically, he's looked really bad. He's kind of like he's stuck between weights. He's too big for 35, but he's too small for 45. So he's just kind of trying to make it work.
Yep, tough times for Barao.
Yep. I mean, there's not really a whole lot to dissect here. We know what Barao is. Sanders is a high output striker. He has 6 knockouts. 12 of his wins are by. He has 12 wins. 6 of those are by knockout.
Yeah.
But his strike defense isn't great. He eats about the same amount of shots as Barao does. So
yeah, just essentially, who's going to be crisper that night or who gets caught.
Yep. I'm not even going to give a prediction because neither one of them's on a roll. So like you said, it's basically going to be who shows up that night is
who has more heart, who digs deeper that night.
Yep. This is going to be another card we jump around a little bit.
Yep.
We're going to try and condense these videos a little bit for you guys because, I mean, I know we could sit here
sometimes
and talk we could talk for hours. So we're just going to kind of touch on the fights we know about, and then if we feel there's any prospects that are worth keeping an eye on, we'll name drop them a little bit.
Speaking of prospects,
we're going to jump to not the last fight on the prelims, the second to last fights. It's between Benito Lopez and Manny Bermudez. Manny Bermudez, I know a little bit about him. He's got 10 submission wins. Half of those are by triangle choke. Because of that, his nickname is actually the Bermudez Triangle. So, I mean, obviously that's going to be what he's looking for. He's going to want to take it to the ground. Yep. Lopez is a little bit more well-rounded. He trains out of Alpha Male. He's got 3 knockouts, 2 submissions, 4 decisions. Both of these guys are undefeated. Lopez at 9-0, Bermudez at 13-0. So, this is one to keep an eye on. This is probably going to be your next prospect at 135.
Yeah, someone's O's got to go. And whoever wins will likely be looking to climb up that ladder.
Yep. And this is another one I'm not going to make a prediction on just because they have 3 combined UFC fights, so there's not
a whole background knowledge that we have on how they fight.
Right. So, just keep your eyes out for those guys. Could be your next star in that division.
Yep.
So, we'll move on to the next one.
On to the actual main event.
Featured.
The featured fight. That's a better way to put it. The featured fight of the prelims.
Yeah, which
is surprising that this one is on the prelims, technically, because I think this is going to be a really good fight between Jimmy Rivera and Aljamain Sterling.
Yeah, this, in all honesty, could be a pay-per-view fight.
Yeah, this is going to be a really good scrap.
Yeah. Jimmy Rivera looked like an absolute monster for...
up until he ran into Marias' shin.
Yeah, which nobody survived that shin
what are you
yet.
going to do? I mean, he even took out what seemed like one of the most durable guys in the game.
Yeah, in a Sunsao. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't knock the guy for losing to
An absolute
Moraes.
killer right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Other than that, the guy's been undefeated in the UFC. 6-1. His only knockout is to Moraes. That's the only time he's been finished in his career. So, I mean, we all kind of know what he is at this point.
Yep.
He's not really much of a finisher, but he's not gonna stop.
But he's a good, well-rounded fighter.
Right. He's like a Sunsao. He just doesn't have that he doesn't have pure knockout power.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really grapple. Like, he chooses to use his grappling to keep a fight standing.
Yep.
So, he's going to wear you down over 3 rounds.
Yeah, and actually that's how I see this fight going. I think just in terms of this fight, when you see the way that Aljo typically wins fights is he typically doesn't pick everyone apart on their feet. He picks his shots, lands them, and he goes for trips, weird takedowns, things of that nature. He's trying to get a hold of you, trying to use that Matt Serra jiu-jitsu and choke you out. And I just personally think Jimmy Rivera is too smart, too well-rounded of a fighter to have any of these little tricks or traps to fall into. And so I think he'll keep the fight standing. I think he'll do well at keeping Aljo from implementing any of his jiu-jitsu against him. And I think he'll eke out a decision against Aljo. So
Yeah, that's where I'm at, too. Aljamain doesn't really take a lot of punishment in his fights, but that's usually because he's using that Serra jiu-jitsu. But he doesn't have a real high takedown percentage, and Rivera's never been taken down in the UFC, so I agree 100%. I think that Jimmy's just he's gonna stalk him around that cage for 3 rounds and just kind of piece him up. I have a decision.
Yep, me too. Rivera by decision.
Yeah, but that's not to say that Aljo couldn't catch him and get his back. Aljamain's probably the most dangerous submission grappler in 35.
At 35, yeah.
Or at least in the top of that division. We'll say that.
Yeah.
Of the contenders, I mean, once you get into the top 10, anything can really happen.
Yep.
But we both have Rivera winning.
Yep, agreed.
Get his name back in the title hunt.
He's going to want to get back there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep, especially because of, depending on what happens with TJ and Cejudo, maybe he gets another shot at Moraes for a title eliminator.
Yeah, or if Moraes is going to fight one of those, fight TJ potentially, maybe he fights a Sunsao or something like that to try
Cruz,
to...
Yeah. Now on to the main card.
Yep.
We've got, opening the card, Andre Fili and Miles Jury.
And so I actually, when I was looking through this fight card and kind of dissecting it in my head, I see this one going pretty similarly to the last one. And in this sense, I think Miles Jury is the smarter, more technical fighter.
Yep.
And Fili's going to be the one that, instead of trying to do necessarily jiu-jitsu him, he's going to try to make it into that scrappy, just trade nonstop, because he throws a lot of shots. So he's going to want to set the pace, throw a lot of punches, get you tired, because he can do that, I'm just stand here and throw punches all day type style. Whereas I think Jury is a little bit more of a smarter fighter in the terms of he kind of picks his shots. He doesn't get his head in there and just put his head down, bite on his mouthpiece, and throw punches. And so I think as long as Jury can fight the way we've seen him fight in the past and fight up to his potential, I think Jury should win this fight. But if he gets caught in a dogfight against Fili, he's a very tough guy to one, put away, and two, to throw more punches than. Right. So if you're going to trade with him, he's probably going to land a lot of shots, which might win him the decision. But I think Jury should win the decision in this fight.
Yep, I agree with you again. Like you said, Andre Fili's more of a, let's stand here, we're going to stand toe-to-toe. And, I mean, you look up his stats, he absorbs as many strikes as he lands. Miles Jury, on the other hand, is more of a 2-to-1 kind of guy. So I think... Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not super familiar with Miles Jury. The lasting thought I have in my head right now is his fight against Mendez last summer. And
it's a tough fight, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not many people beat Chad. So,
right.
But I agree. I think that Jury's going to be the smarter fighter. I don't think that Fili has that one-shot power to absolutely turn a fight on its head.
Yep.
So I think that Jury's game will suit him well in taking out Fili.
I agree.
I think you have I didn't really do anything for this next fight.
Oh, for Luque. Is Luque the next one
Yep.
fighting? So, what I thought was interesting about this fight is their stats are almost identical. But I think the difference in this fight will be the fact that Vicente Luque is just a little bit more well-versed in jiu-jitsu. And so where I think this will come in is I think these guys are going to exchange a lot of punches. And if Luque gets caught and he gets rocked, he's going to be comfortable. If he has to go down, pull guard, do something to allow him to last in that fight so he doesn't get finished, that extra comfort on the ground with jiu-jitsu is a huge factor.
Yeah.
And then to the contrary, if he's the one that hits Bam Bam, gets him weak, he doesn't necessarily have to finish it with punches. He can take his back. He can put hooks in. He can ride him out for a little bit and then just slowly work in that jiu-jitsu until he can catch him slipping and then catch him with a submission. So I think Luque will be the one that eventually pulls that fight off. And I think it could potentially happen in the second round. If they get to exchanging, he might be able to clip him. And then while they're still fresh, still have a little bit of power on there, and then jump on him. And while he's protecting his face, I think he can slip in there and maybe get his neck for a submission in the second round.
Like I said, I didn't do anything for this fight, but just based off familiarity, I'll go Barberena just because I know him a little bit better. That's literally the only reason. So I'll roll with him.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to go with your gut.
Yep.
And then on to a fight where jiu-jitsu is going to play an even bigger role.
Yeah.
Because it is 100% of one of the guy's game plans.
Yep. You got Alex Caceres,
Bruce Leroy.
Fighting the debuting Gracie, who is the grandson of Helio Gracie and the son of Hickson.
Yep.
So, I mean, direct lineage of Gracie.
We know what his game plan is.
Yeah.
He's not striking.
No.
And if he is, it's only to set up his jiu-jitsu.
You're looking at is Damian Maia, but a better finisher on the ground.
Right.
I mean, there's, like I said, Kron's making his debut. There's nothing.
Yep.
He's looking for that submission, and everybody knows that Bruce Leroy's got that flashy striking.
Yeah. And that's what I wrote down is I think Gracie should win this fight.
I agree.
And I think he does that by closing the distance and not getting caught with anything flashy. If you can avoid flashy strikes, Caceres isn't special in terms of his wrestling or his jiu-jitsu, so if he can get a hold of him and get him down, fight's over.
Yeah.
Just don't get hit.
Yep. That's what it is. And I don't think they didn't have any stats on Gracie, so I don't know how much of a reach advantage Caceres is working with.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of a factor that's going to play.
Yeah, but either way, Caceres has had some hot moments, and when he first came into the UFC, he was a little bit of a showman, and so he had a little bit of a buzz around him, but I'm going to take Gracie with a first-round submission. I think he's going to go in there, he's going to be determined, kind of like Mackenzie Dern when she came over. I think he's going to take Caceres down, choke him out.
Yep, that's how I got it. I don't think if the UFC thought Caceres was a big threat, I don't think they would be matching Gracie up against them.
Agreed.
A
lot of Brazilian love potentially come behind a fight like that. You don't want to put them in round one and get them socked right off the bat.
Yep. So. They have a real opportunity here to make a big star at 145 pounds. Or at least to plant the seeds of it.
Right.
So you don't want to mess that up his first time out, like you said. So, next up, co-main event? No,
it's Calvillo and Casey next.
Yeah. This is another striker grappler matchup.
Yep.
There seems to be a lot of them on the.
It seems
almost the whole card.
Yeah, pretty much. A lot of the fights kind of break down like this.
Yeah. Calvillo is your grappler.
Yep.
Trains out of Alpha Male. Good wrestling. She is great at getting girls' backs and sinking in a rear naked choke. Courtney Casey is your striker.
Yep, she's taller and longer than most girls when she fights against them in that division.
Yep. She lands a lot, but she also eats a lot of shots.
Yeah.
Her she only has a 24%
her takedown
takedown
defense
defense.
isn't good.
It's not good at all. So the wild card of this is Calvillo came in heavy her last fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm not sure if there was something that attributed to that or if it's just a matter of...
Well, she had the layoff for testing positive for pot.
Yeah.
And that was after the Cookie Monster fight because she was pissed off that she lost. And then she got... So that was her first fight back after however long of a layoff.
Right.
So maybe that has some sort of... Maybe she was like, well, I can't do this, so I'm not going to train as hard. Or I'm not going to worry about my nutrition as much. And maybe that played a factor. But I remember that way, and she looked terrible.
Bad. She almost
came in like a zombie. Like,
yes, she almost fell off the scale.
So...
that could potentially play a factor. But just based off of Courtney Casey's awful takedown defense.
Yeah,
and
it's hard to not go with the grappler in this point. So.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, that's Calvillo's. She hasn't really struggled to take
I had
anybody
the same thing.
to
As
ground.
long as she can close the distance and get a hold of her, I think she's going to have no problem taking her down. And then I personally don't know if she will finish her. If she does, I think it'll be a submission.
Yeah.
But when in doubt, I think she could easily ride it out for a 3-round decision. So I'll take that, but there's probably a decent chance she gets subbed as well.
Yeah, I got second round sub for Calvillo. And seems to be another one of Dana's favorites, so...
Yeah. Well, she was doing really well in that controversial loss to Esparza. She probably wants to get back towards the top of that division,
right.
So she's going to want to get out there and get it done.
Yep, I agree. Now the co-main event. We've got James Vick and Paul Felder.
Yeah, and so just right off the bat, I'm not a big fan of James Vick. I like Paul Felder, so I want Paul Felder to win. And I think he has a very good chance of winning. One, because after that last fight with Gaethje, we saw if you can close the distance and frustrate Vick, and if you can land something on him, his chin is not all it cracked up to be when he was talking shit in the pressers. So I think and Felder's a smart guy. He really understands fighting. When you hear him break down fights, he knows this. And so I think he's going to have a good game plan. I think Vick likes to circle a lot and move, use his range. He's a real tall guy. He's like 6'3", long reach.
The thing with him being 6'3", though, he doesn't really utilize that reach as much as you think he would.
No, it's weird because he does more running away in fights. Yeah. And so, in my opinion, if Felder can walk him down, cut off his circling, use his foot movement to cut off any circling that Vick's trying to do of trying to run away, close the distance, cut him off, land shots, and I think for sure that Felder should win this fight, in my opinion, after how I've seen Vick perform in his most recent one against Gaethje. I no longer think that he's as a formidable as opponent as he kind of seemed to be in those earlier fights against lesser-named opponents.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you kind of covered it all. Vick has the high output. He gets hit a little bit, though. Paul Felder's got 10 knockout wins.
Yeah, Felder's got power.
Yeah, and Vick has 2 career losses, but both of them are by knockout.
Yep.
The other thing that could potentially play a factor in this is Felder does have a little bit of ground and pound. I don't think he frequently takes fights there.
Yeah.
But when he does, he's got... I mean, we saw it with Oliveira.
Yeah.
Absolutely nasty ground and pound.
With those elbows.
Yeah. So, I mean, if he takes it to the ground, Vick could be in for a long, painful night.
Yep.
But I've got Felder by a TKO in the second round. Whether that's on the ground or standing, I don't know. But I think he touches that chin and...
I can second that. I can see a second round knockout.
Yeah. And this is probably to vault one of these guys into the top 10 of the division.
Yeah. Hopefully Felder. And so on to the return.
When
was the last time he fought? 2015?
Fox 1 card.
Fox 1. Fox 1. Ouch. Yeah, but it's been a long time since Cain's fought.
Yeah. Kind of cool, though, that he was, I mean, all jokes aside, kind of cool that he's the main event of the first ESPN card and was the first main event of, he was the main event of the Fox 1 card. It's true. That is a really cool stat, just for him to have, like, personally. Yeah. Hopefully it goes a little better than Fox 1 went. Yeah. But, I mean, this is another... Yeah, this is a lot of these fights, in my opinion, are clean cut on the potential, like... If someone does this, they're going to win. Yeah. And I think that's exactly how this fight goes. If Cain comes back to Cain's form
if we see vintage Cain Velasquez,
Oh.
I don't think there's a chance that Ngannou can touch him.
Nope.
But it's simple here. Cain wants to be smart, close the distance, land a couple of his shots, take it to the ground. What he doesn't want to do is
Fight at range.
And take bad shots in on Ngannou.
Yep.
Because then if he really telegraphs that he's going for a takedown, Ngannou's uppercut will literally end the rest of his career. Now, I mean, I don't know if it will or not, but it might.
Yeah. Make him think long and hard about coming back again.
Yeah, so with that being said, out of AKA, he and DC, I'm sure, will have crafted out, the best potential takedowns on Ngannou. And they've got to watch the blueprint set by Stipe.
Yep.
And I think Cain's going to be an even better wrestler than Stipe is. And so I just see stealing Stipe's blueprint, going in, taking him down, controlling that fight. Now, my only question is whether or not he finishes him before the end of that 5th round.
I think that he will, personally. Just because Stipe's game plan, he didn't finish him, but his whole game plan, there wasn't a whole lot of ground and pound there. It was literally just predicated on, I'm going to take you down, and I'm going to make you work to get back to your feet, and you're just going to be dead-ass tired.
Yeah.
And he did that for 2-3 rounds, however long it was, and then later in the fight, Ngannou did hit another heavy shot, so then it was just right back.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't really trying to finish that fight. The difference between Stipe and Cain is Cain's pace. If you get vintage Cain, I mean, regardless of if he holds him down or not,
he'll throw way more shots.
He's going to throw a lot more shots, and he's going to set the tone of that fight. And Ngannou is going to get dead-ass tired.
Yep.
And then I think he lands something big. And I literally think he's going to... If you get vintage Cain, he's going to break him. And he's just going to make Ngannou look for the quickest way out. Now, let me play devil's advocate for a second. Cain's last fight was UFC 200 against Travis Browne. So, almost 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Ngannou is...
Is that July 2015?
July 2016.
2016. Okay. That makes... Okay, yep.
Ngannou may not be may not be a wise move to make a 2.5 year return from a 2.5 year layoff.
Right.
Because if your timing's off even a little bit, you're going to sleep.
Yep.
So, hopefully there's no ring rust. With that being said, I read an article just recently that this whole layoff for Cain was not injury related. His son was born a couple years ago, I think. So he made the decision that he wanted, because he missed so many of his daughter's firsts because of his fighting career. He decided that he wanted to take the time off, spend time with his family. So that, I don't know how much he was in the gym training.
Well, he had to be in there a little bit because with those fights that DC had, that Cain was going to be there for him and help him with that preparation. So
right,
but probably not as much as if he were to be training for his own fight.
Yeah.
So,
so I mean that plays a little bit of a factor too, where you're going in when you want, you're kind of drilling a little bit, you're not rehabbing an injury.
Yep.
So I don't know how much ring rust there will be. There's obviously going to be some. This is going to come down to if Cain can work through that quickly enough to avoid eating that power shot.
Yep.
I think you will. Like I said, I think you're going to get closer to vintage Cain than not.
Right.
And he's just going to outpace him and break him.
Yep. I think either late 3rd round, early 4th round.
Yep.
Ngannou doesn't have much of a gas tank. When you're that big and strong of a guy, it's hard. And so if he tries to throw a few punches there, or if Cain can even just get him and hold him down for a little bit, we saw how tired he got against Stipe. And Cain, like you said before, Cain's going to throw way more punches than Stipe did. So I think at least by the end of the 4th round, Cain will have him out of there with a TKO.
Yep, that's where I'm at. I got 4th round. I think that he just puts it on him for 3 rounds. Makes it, even if it's not a bunch of takedowns, just makes him move around the cage. Doesn't let him get comfortable, fight at his range, fight at his pace. Cain's going to make him just continuously work.
Yep.
I would say if Ngannou doesn't win this within 1, that you're just slowly going to see... I can see Cain being hesitant through that 1st round, I guess.
If he doesn't finish him by the end of the 1st minute in the 2nd round, in my opinion, that's my absolute cutoff for Ngannou. So.
Yeah, because the longer you have to take advantage of Cain being off that long.
Yep.
If you allow him to. The longer that fight goes, the more comfortable he's going to get, and then you're in trouble. So, we both have Cain, 3rd, 4th round.
Yep.
But we'll see.
Yeah, so we'll see. Anything's possible, especially with Ngannou.
Yeah, and if he wins this, I mean, puts him right back in that title hunt.
Maybe potentially for a Stipe rematch even. But that will do it for us here, breaking down UFC Phoenix. If you like this video, please give it a like. Please leave in the comments what you guys thought, any recommendations, and please let us know what fighters you think are going to take each of these fights.
Yeah. Are you posting this on the old channel too?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
But definitely on the new channel.
Yeah.
So sub.
New channel. Sub.
Sub to the new channel.
If you like it, sub for sure. We have a Facebook page, goes by the same name. Working on the rest of social media.
Working on Twitter, Instagram, all the other stuff. So be sure to follow along, guys, especially if you're a big UFC fan like we are.
Yep.
All right, we'll see you in the next one, aka next week.